The cover's still on? Good. All right. I personally don't oil those pre-filters, but you can. Okay, so off camera, I have ordered a bunch of parts. I have received some of these. They came like this, of course. You just cut them and make them, you know, whole. I have put in the little mini fuses. These are the same ones cars use today. So some cars, there's some that are larger. There's ATM, AGM, and I forget what the third one is. And I got a 15 amp and a 20. So I was going to get a single pole switch, and it looked like what they had before was, even though one terminal was broken, looked like they had two different lines. And then when you broke the connection, it would break the lines. Okay, cool. I was going to put them together and then realized no. Then one of them is going to be charging power coming back and the other is going to be going out to the coil. Well, if I did connect them into one, if I turn the switch off, the charging coil is just going to still energize the ignition coil, not killing it. So I will do something different now that I've already got the switch in my hand, which is only one in, one out. I will just wire the alternator direct to the battery, which there's no reason why not to, which would mean just wiring it to the power in cable here. I'll just wire that directly out with the fuse. The only one that's got to be really switched is the power out to the ignition coil. So let's do that. First thing I want to do is determine which is on position, which is off on the switch that I bought. No connection. Okay, that's on. So I need to face that up when I put it in the panel. This particular switch happened to come with the little placard. Obviously, usually up is on, and it also has this boot for the front that makes it more water resistant. These you can adjust how far you want it to come out of the panel. I'm going to make this one come out fairly far because we're going to be putting that waterproof boot on the front. Even though the panel is very thin, I'm going to back it off some. Actually, this one, you put this as a gasket, apparently, and then you put this over and tighten it down. So I may not want to have it that far. I'll see if I have to back that off or not. I don't know how far these really go. Nope, it's compatible with a good distance. Okay, got that. So here's the plan. Here's our power going in. Here's our power going out to the starter. So we need to jump 2 powers from here. One to one side of the switch or the other. That'll go out to the ignition coil. And then one to the fuse holder. And then the other wire will go to the charging system. That is the plan. I have proper wire size connectors that'll fit. So I'm going to put 2 of these, one each, on the fuse holder. 15 should be more than enough for any coil I know of. And I'm going to put 20 for the charging because I don't know what it is. I might have put a 30 if I had it, but I don't know if that wire is big enough to do it anyway. So the fuse may not be the weak point. The wire might be, because the wire is pretty small coming from stock, from factory. So I'm not overly concerned that we're going to overamp anything. But if we do, I guess we could just change that wire later. But it's probably not going to, on any given day, be putting out more than, I don't know, 10, 15 amps to recharge the battery after it starts. That's all it's for. So not a heavy load item. Crimping is good. Let's go for some heat shrink action. Nice. And while these are in my hand, I'm going to get the other end now attached the 20 amp. I'm going to get attached to an end-to-end connector because that's going to go straight to the wire. The other one's got to go to that switch. I got the wrong connector in my hand. It's just easier when it's right here out in the open than when it's connected to something and probably obstructed some. Cool. The other one, it just needs like the smallest ring terminal I got. Let's see what I have available. Oh yeah, this one here. That guy. And I'm just leaving these wires whatever length. There's plenty of room on this machine to run things out wherever you need them to run, or you could fold them around however you had to do it. Ah. I'm going to turn it sideways slightly. Just, I don't know how much room I have where I have to mount this because I'm not the one that took it off. There we go. That power goes there. Gets power from the main. Gets power from the main. I already have a new stainless washer on that side. We'll put a new stainless washer on this side. The lock washer and the washer. And I can already see that that washer is going to be a little much. It's actually clamping down on part of the insulated area there. We're not going to be flowing a ton of power, but I am going to chip away from where my thumbnail is up. Take that insulation off just to get the maximum possible good connection. I assume this one was probably coming out the bottom. When I say coming out, I mean just facing that way, not coming out of. Probably like that because the bolts are up here. Yeah. All right, I got my thing selected. So this will go to the wires that are on the machine for the ignition coil. This will go for the wires returning power for charging the battery. This will go to the starter where it was. Battery positive. And we got all brand new wires. All right, got the install all complete here. So we got our new switch, which is ignition kill only. A rebuilt starter switch. Both fuses hanging down nicely. One for the charging system, one for the ignition coil. Hooked into the ignition coil, and the other one is, I don't know, back there, whatever. The wire lug for this one, there's 2 lugs in and out. This one I did have to reclock a little, so it was kind of pointing down on an angle so it could come out and make sense heading to our battery instead of coming straight down and then trying to 90 it back there. Starter switch, or starter wire back on its terminal. They made that one nice and short as can be, just like you want it, so nothing shorts out. Just remounted it all. And of course, this battery right now is deader than a heck, so I got to use a charging boost pack. But except for some fuel lines, we're ready to fire this engine. Just spoke about the fuel lines, and what it's got is a suction line that runs from the engine through the cowl over to here into the pump. Then it gets pressurized and comes from this line, which is currently disconnected. So just because this is the pressure line, I'm going to replace it because it's the pressure side. If the other side did leak, it would be leaking at gravity volume or none. And this side, if it was leaking, it would be potentially spraying. So let's replace at least the piece that's easy to get to, just because we should. I don't prefer these kind of clamps, so I'm going to change them out too. They do have some residual spring action, but that doesn't mean I like them. Oh, that's got some nasty old gas still in there, doesn't it? Ugh. Oh, I could smell it again. The other day, it was ridiculous. The smell coming off this machine. I just wish we could get some way of getting the full effect through the camera so we all can enjoy. Because it was not enjoyable. It's old gas has a smell that's just another level. I don't know how you'd explain it. If you'd never smelled it, you would not understand. And get this about to the same right size that I think. All right, we got some fuel lines. So I noticed I didn't have a fuel filter here, and I hate to put one right where everything needs to move and where the heat is and everything. I believe there's probably one. It's got one of those old-fashioned fuel shutoffs there. Those should have a screen going up inside the tank. Hopefully it does. I do have a fuel shutoff at the tank there. So usually they are incorporated into 2, which is why they don't have another one in line. So we're going with that premise until I know otherwise. I got our booster pack hooked up. We got hot. We got negative. We have choke on. Ignition on. Full throttle. Contact. All right, ran and died. I would expect this because our carburetor is new and not full of fuel yet. And now it is. So I'm going to choke off. Oh, she's smoky, boy. Wildwood. Didn't want to idle there, but anyway, I may have to dial a few things out on the mix, but we're looking good, and we're already burning some stickers off the muffler. Look at that smoke. Okay, off camera, I ran it just enough to get the sticker real good and smoky and get a little discoloration started on the thing. And the main thing I had to adjust was that screw right there, which is the idle, because as I backed our throttle off to idle, it would just die, as you saw in the camera. So running spectacular. Now I will not run it much, because here's one thing I realized the other day. That's the only oil fill it has, and the drain is wherever, over there somewhere. There is no way people have maintained this thing well, because it doesn't have a good dipstick tube that you could just quick check it, or it's not easy to change. So most likely that oil is pretty raunchy, so I'm not going to run it a whole lot. I'm just happy for today that to leave off where I did, that it's running, which is what we want to prove before we put the other parts on. All right, out here at the next day for me, and let's crank it up and do an oil change, because I'm sure that oil hasn't been changed in forever. Now we got it going, it's worth doing. But in order to do that, I want it all stirred up and all the junk in suspension so we can get it out of there. And did I label that wrong yesterday? That's the first question I want to ask myself, because I was reviewing some of the video, and would choke be in like that? I think I put my arrow the wrong way. Sure did. I'll have to redraw my arrow. Choke is down. This is in the wrong mode. Now we got it. I think because I had it on an angle, I ran it out of gas yesterday. Half choke? Must be some trick to it. I'll get it and bring it back. So as I was trying to start it for the oil change, I realized it wasn't working right. It only ran so long as I held the starter button in. And I had been seeing the starter cone, the piece that you see in there with the paint on it, half on and half off. I had been noticing that was still rolling the other day, and I thought the starter was just a little sticky when I had first turned it on. Now I realized I made an error. When I was wiring, there's two terminals, one from the battery and one to the starter. I had wired both of those. You watched me do it. Both of these fuse taps on the starter side. So I think what was happening was, when I just happened to let off the button, it would fire, and then the power from the charging system was backfeeding to the coil, and it blew a fuse. Thankfully, one of my new fuses protected us, so that's a good thing. So it didn't start, and then I had to find out why. And I found out that I had put it on the load side instead of the battery side. So of course it wasn't going to work like that. So hilarious wiring ensues when you don't have a schematic and you're making it up and you still make errors. Okay, let's see if it'll start now. My jump pack is admittedly getting a little low. Let's see what this thing can do. Man, that burning paint on that muffler is nasty smelling. Old-fashioned square pipe plug down here. Is this thing broken? No. Felt weird. Now, how are you supposed to get this out? Yeah, see, this is why I say I'm awful skeptical on the quality of oil, because if it's a pain in the neck to check and change, nobody's going to check and change it. So I really want to get that out of there now that I got a little runtime on it. We'll just try to get it with the socket. I correct myself. It does have a dipstick. Just the kind I've never seen before. And actually, the oil doesn't look bad. It's very thin, though. Very thin. So it probably was watered down with water or gasoline or something. For this job, I'm using my oil extractor. Just a little suction device. And you could put a hose down in there. And it's much neater than trying to let it out the other side and it drips all over the frame and makes a mess of everything. So I'll change the oil, bring you back. We got that part sorted, as they say in overseas. The next thing I want to do is get rid of my blue box holding my heavy trailer before I shatter the plastic and cost myself a $20 box. And that means putting where those two holes used to be. Get that shot. And I had a bracket. And I found something online that kind of looks like that. So I need to cut off all that old weld and all that old bracket piece. I guess that's all weld there, actually. They never got a good bond into the plate that they were trying to weld. But anyway, doesn't matter how they did it, what they did. I need to get their old weld all cleaned off of there. And just to give you an idea what that looks like, how much is there. Quite a bit. So I will de-weld their plate. I got that zoomed in way too far. There we go. I will, cut all the welds, get that whole bracket off of there. And, if I didn't show you, this is the one I've got. I looked online for pictures of this, what would have been on here. It would have been a top wind jack with a rotator like this one. And with the rotator, what I mean is you don't have to wind it up. You can turn it out of the way once you go to move it, so you don't catch it on a stump or wherever you're working. So that's what we got. This one looks pretty similar to what probably was on there. And I'm going to put it in the same position, so we'll have clearance for everything necessary, because I'm sure the factory put it in the right spot. So as I was grinding around and getting that top plate off that was on there, still hot, I realized as I was trying to test fit this one, it's a good thing I didn't get lazy and try to just move this somewhere else, because the back of that jack, that pin has to go through the back. So we're so lucky it lines right back up. So I just took a drill and just tried to drill that hole out a little bit just to make sure it's good and clean. And that way, even if I'm misaligned a hair, it'll still go in. Got the hitch jack put on how I want it. Now, while I got the welder out, I'm going to unweld the old chain there and put on 2 new chains with the good locking type clips like I like. That ain't going anywhere. I still haven't figured out what I want to do for a hitch. If I'm going to leave that pin type hitch, it's all bent up anyway, but I just have to think about what I want to do up there. So the other thing I have to do, these taillights. Now, what I noticed is these 2 are completely broken out and have been replaced several times. This one is even, the bottom bolt is even sheared off it. I looked online, and every picture I saw of these, almost every trailer has damage to these lights. So there must be a place, because you're working like, you know, kind of right up against it, and maybe you're dropping logs and stuff. I'm guessing they get broken that way because the fender isn't bent here like it was backed into something. So I'm guessing logs do that. Whether you're left-handed or right-handed or whatever, you're right up in here operating this thing in the vertical position or horizontal. So I might come up with something different than they did, is what I'm getting at. So for today, I'm going to take the lights and the brackets off, and I don't know if I'm going to put something on top here. Maybe if I can find something with a little guard on it or something, maybe we'll do that. I don't know. But definitely they take a beating where they are. And of course, any wire going around a point is going to chafe, and that's probably part of it too. So I'm just going to try to think about what I want to do for these lights yet. But for today, we'll take them off. This one here has only got 1 bolt holding it. That one was swinging for a while. I like looking at evidence like paint like that. You can see it didn't just happen just now. And these are kind of nice brackets, but it just seems like these things are in a bad position the way they put them. So maybe we can do better than that. I don't know. But that's what I'm going to do for today. And I'm going to take the lights off the brackets while I got the socket on there. And I'll clip the wires and get that out of there. Leave it as is. All right, let's give you a look at what we're doing today. I've got this Reese hitch. Now, I'm not a Reese fanboy, but here's one cool feature. A simple piece of chain to tether your clip. Nice going. I saw a lot of other people that liked it, and the review also said the sticker is a pain in the neck to remove. Now, why would you put a giant sticker all over that when you're going to have to get at the holes? Weird. The reason they call it a dual fit is this one can fit multiple sizes. So it comes big, and then you could shim it with these to fit what size you have. Another feature I like, because I got a weird size here because they've scabbed onto it back there That used to be a different size. This is bigger, and it is what it is. So here's the beautiful thing. I don't have to move these. I was a little concerned that might have to go too far on. It does not. It only goes like to there, so that's perfect. So I'm going to use one shim, which will get me, I got just a hair of play, but I think this thing will, if I really tighten down, it'll clamp just enough. I don't think I'm going to put washers there to try to space it. I'd rather have it in full contact with the side, even if it's crushed in a little bit. And so I guess my main thing is going to be getting these holes in the right place. They're big holes, and that's thick metal. So there's nothing going to be easy about this one, except for a whole lot of drilling. I'm going to try going at it with the paint pen. I suppose there's 50 different ways you can do this. Transfer punch would probably be the most ideal, but all right, now we got a spot to start drilling. All right, I got through it with the small drill bit first. I'm not going to use a step drill because I just think that's going to wear it out quick. This is really thick metal. This one is double thick. This is where because this has been upsized, the old piece is behind here. So when I went through that one, I went through the other one too. So I sure won't have any trouble biting into anything real good with that bolt, because you'll never crush a double pipe. So I guess I'll just start on the other side with this size and work my way up. If you subscribe to the channel, I could buy myself a plasma cutter soon. Thank you. Hey, we got some holes. Probably can't see them because it's a little black, but we got some holes. I went with 1/2 inch, and I put some paint on there so we have a little corrosion protection underneath, because I do live in the Rust Belt, and if this was ever to be used in salt, which is unlikely because most people don't split wood in the winter, but whatever. If you were transporting it, it could happen, or just regular rust. So let's keep it as strong as possible. Put a quick coat of paint. While that's drying, I'm going to try to find some bolts. I rarely use bolts all that long, so I might have to go to the store. Got some hardware picked out. I got some grade 8 bolts here, or nuts. I have some washers that'll fit, which are galvanized, but what I don't have is bolts long enough. I got a metric thing in there now, and it's only the 8.8 class. I think the 10.9 is the stronger one. I don't know how that relates to standard US, but I know grade 8 is the one I want for this. I just don't have any. So I got the nuts. I got double nuts if I want to do that, or if I want to put some weld on it. I kind of like to have something, or at least maybe if I want to buy a stop nut or something. I got a leftover plate here because I didn't need both sides. But anyway, it bolted on real firm. But I'm going to replace these with 1/2 inch bolts, grade 8, when I get them. You'll see that a little later in the video. All right, next thing I want to do, I got 2 of these. One for laying this down to show you where we're at. This is the main beam. This one sticks out. You get it out of the way and you lock it in the down position. Well, it's got a couple problems. One, this main pin is bent. I'll show you the side view in a minute, so it doesn't pull very easily. And 2, there's supposed to be a pin in the hole there that goes into the groove, and then if you were to take it and put it sideways, it locks that pin out of the way. It locks right where it is, and then if you take it, go like that, it'll drop in. That's not happening. So I got you set up there about level, and let's see if we pull this out. Can we see on the camera? I don't know if it really shows, but that pin is bent down there quite a bit. The other one is also bent. This one works fairly good, but the other one is bent too. So I'm going to try to pry up on this area. I'm going to probably heat that up because we're only dealing with steel here, no plastics, and just to get that lined up a little better, and then we'll try to find some kind of pin or bolt to make this work. Okay, well, as I was testing out my pry bar to see if it fit under there, I realized it actually pried fairly easily, so no need to mess around with heat and possibly damaging the spring and stuff. Okay, I got a rolled pin. Those that aren't familiar, it's a pin. It's literally rolled over, and it has some spring to it. That size was a little too small, and I'm hoping this size will go in. And all you do is drive them in, and they hold because they got the pressure. Always wants to pull out. Always wants to go back to the bigger round shape. There you go. See now, have I got you in the whole shot there? So now we're pulling the pin all the way out of the way. It's flat right now because I have this pin sitting up on the piece, up on the rise there. But if you let it go, now it's interfering and it won't let this piece come up. So that's good. And once this rusts into place, it'll be even better. Nice. This one here is for putting it upright. And again, it's got the pin. That pin is, the backside's missing, but I don't think that really matters. But what I don't like is this isn't the perfect 90. I'd like to hammer that back a little bit just to make it pull in a straight line instead of pull on an angle each time. This piece here is relatively straight. I'm going to do a little straightening on that too. But I'm going to replace the pin just so it can work both ways. If it's easier for the handle to be over here, why wouldn't it be, rather than folding it all the way back around where you can't hardly get at it under there. So this, if I put a pin sticking half and half, we can use it both ways. Even though it's probably not supposed to stick out because then it's sticking out toward the operator. That might be the case, but I'm going to make mine both ways. That way it can be used both ways. Darn right. I just found out something about the way this operates. That pin is only supposed to stick out halfway. Here's why. It has a hole it can fall through. So here you can lock it open. The pin's out of the way. You can make it so it just stops, or you could make it fall through the hole and lock it in the locked position. That's important, especially for the transport one, which I just worked on just a minute ago. So I'm going to leave that one exactly as is, and I'm going to make the one on the horizontal bar match. It's important that that would be locked in so the big beam can't tilt up during transport. And yes, this one does have the notch. Now it looks like it doesn't go through. There's a washer on the other side blocking me. That washer will just move in when the pin goes through. So let's just get a shorter pin, or I can cut that pin. All right, I got it all how I want it. So I got a half a pin sticking out. I've ground that nub close enough so it can be out of the way. It can be there just good enough for when you're using it. And then it could go through the plate. And because gravity will hold it, now that pin has no way of coming out. The pin, you know, this part here will hold that straight out and make it not be able to come out. Otherwise, it would have to come here, release some spring tension, and now the thing could move. So it's actually a fail-safe design. I like it. When you have a hydraulic filter made by Gressen Hydraulics, a company that I don't even know is in existence anymore, I think it's time to change it. And when the outside of said filter is rusting naturally, also same scenario. Can I get on this good enough with this? Not really. And I bet you that's been on there a very, very long time. Yeah, who am I kidding? Ooh, nice. Proper tool really gets the rotation in the right direction. I've already got some pigment down here. Let me get the other filter prepped up so we're ready when it explodes. I mean, comes off gently. I may be a fool for pouring this back in, but I'm gonna. And just a layman's observation, looks like there's some buggery going on inside that old filter. Next order of business is battery hold down. So this one has some fairly large rods. First of all, I don't know why it needs a car or a truck size battery, because a U1 is a standard for a small engine. And even though this is an industrial machine, it's only starting the engine. There's no lights, there's no anything. Really big, really overkill, but maybe they just do that so it doesn't go bad all the time. This one's nice and straight. This one's bent over a little bit, so I'm going to start by just bending this one back a little bit. Then we may have to go with a thread chaser if these don't want to cooperate. And then I need to make a bar that goes across. I may or may not remove this. I may just be able to push that out of the way this way, and that'll be fine. But I'm going to make a bar with some holes in it so we can tighten down that battery real good. Let's see if that post wants to play nice. Good enough for me. Now, while I'm playing with metal bars and battery terminals, let's go ahead and cover over our positive terminal there so we can get some measurements on this thing. And right about there, it'd be about right. Perfect. Got you back here with me, and look at that. Grade 8. Nice, delicious grade 8 bolts. Let's see if we can get her all lined up here on camera without cutting away and without swearing. No, I don't mind buggering up the threads a little bit, because they're going to get buggered up plenty more. Because I'll probably weld the end of this when I get done building. Oh, metric one comes out easy. I just wasn't really sure if that metric one was really going to be strong enough for what it was supposed to be. And I don't want to have to ever think about it. I want to just be able to take it wherever. Don't have to keep double checking my hardware. Oh wait, I needed one of those. I put them on here because I was going to put these ones away. No, I don't have grade 8 washers, but I do have grade 8 nuts. And we have just enough where I could either bugger those threads or put some weld on there. But that's not going anywhere. If that new hitch works as a good work support here, I think it might. Easy, easy. Not with the bent blade, it doesn't. Ah, look what happened. Joke's on you. I got to back up. Yeah. No guard. It's only a flap wheel, not a grinding disc.
Don't even have you in the shot, do I? Sure I do. Nice. I gotta measure for the second one. Beautiful. One shot, does it fit? Yeah. Now, for some stainless steel stop nuts. I'll run these down with the regular impact as much as I can, and then I'll have to do it old school. Because I don't have my deep sockets out here. Or maybe I do.
Deep socket. Will it reach all the way? I think it will. Nice. Now I'm just going to cut off these long ears because there's no reason for it to be that long because you won't always have a deep socket with you. So let's just make them a little more reasonable. And that's galvanized steel on there. So I'm going to leave it as is. All right. So as I was playing with the machine, I always keep finding new things. So this plate is wobbling and I see we're missing a bolt there, or is it broken off? And this one here is loose. Oops, kicked the camera. Let's see what thread this is. Small. Something. I don't have the Allen head ones. Not sure why they use the Allen head ones, but whatever. Maybe it's just a clearance thing because it's real close here and you couldn't quite get a socket in there. Don't know. I'm going to leave that one a little loose. I'm going to be just using hex head. Let's see if that old bolt is snapped off in there, or if it seems like this one might. And initially it seemed like it wanted to go. Let me put a wrench on that. Probably just rust in the hole. Okay, whew. One less drilling out to go today. Beautiful. Yeah, I think this one here, you wouldn't have enough clearance to really put a regular bolt, so they put them both the same. And I would like to put both the same, but I just don't carry Allen head bolts. I just don't use them. All right. Out here today with the wood splitter project, log splitter, whatever you like to call it. I got a boxed metal two-way light. It's got the side light and the regular. These are standard, I think that's a 6-inch. It's a standard size, so they can be replaced individually. These are like what you might find on a big rig or, just other trailers. It's got a rubber gasket there, and you could just pop that out and replace it if necessary. Always a good thing. PVC jacketed 4-flat connector. I like the jacketed kind now instead of the old flat wires because those seem to get damaged quite quickly. PVC jacketed extension wire. I got some retro reflective stickers to put on. I didn't go with reflectors because I figured they just get broken. Always trying to think about damage when you got an industrial machine. And as far as what I'm thinking here, so the old ones, to refresh your memory, had a little bracket that came out and made it flat, and then the light stuck out farther from that. Well, if you look where that would be, which would be about where my finger is, if a log, okay, think about a log falling off of here, it's going to nail it, which is probably why both of these are broken, and everyone that I've seen on the internet is pretty much broken too. Bad placement. So what I think I'm going to do is put mine right about there, not all the way even to the edge, right about there. And what that'll allow is most logs would miss it and hit the fender on the way down instead of it. They are replaceable, but we want them to work when they need to work. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to bolt them down. I was thinking of just, welding, and then, the back corner, whatever. That just makes them a little harder to replace. I always think about easy replacement later. I think I'll bolt them just in case one gets crushed so bad. And then I'm going to keep it, of course, level or less than the fender so it doesn't get backed into a tree or whatever. And like I say, keep it back a little bit. There's no reason it has to be all the way to the edge. You'll be able to see that light just fine. That's where I think I'm going to go today. Just get these mounted. This machine, I still want to repaint the whole machine here. So I'm going to get the holes drilled, get them all prepped, then paint, then place it. So I don't have to go around it. And so I can also get the metal underneath it painted properly so we don't get a rust hole started in that fender. So that's what I'm going to do for today. Get them placed and mounted, and then I'll probably wait on the wiring and everything till after the paint job. I don't want to put the wires and then have to paint around them and everything, so it'll look much neater that way. Okay, possibly difficult to see on camera, but I do have layout lines there. And that's about where I'm going to put it. I just wanted to get it far enough back. Really doesn't have to be on the edge. It seems like it would make sense to have it on the way back of the vehicle, but that's not the case on most trailers. If you look at them, most of these are hanging off the side like this, and they're not at the back of the trailer. So perfectly acceptable. I don't know of any guidelines that would tell you where this have to be. So let me try getting this gasket out. I'm going to get the big one, and then maybe what I'll do is lay out lines on bottom of this and try to, drill this first or measure, and then, get the holes lined up top and bottom line. Obviously I can't drill through here, and I can't really drill through it on an angle, so I'm going to have to pre-drill the bottom of this box and then transfer it over to the right spot there. Let's see how to get these out. Easy, easy. Boy, I even knew these things aren't really pliable, are they? I guess you don't want them to fall out. Am I doing this right? There we go. Not so bad. Okay. That's what I'm going to do on mine. And then I'll be able to reach in there and put bolts and nuts and stuff. Turns out this beam makes a pretty good workbench. Nice and firm. pretty good working height. Not bad. Okay, I got my layout lines. I'm on the bottoms, what I'm going to make the bottoms. I got my layout lines. You probably can't see them in the camera very much, but I'm going to put just 2 bolts each. I got them set back about halfway, not quite halfway, and about 2 inches in. Not that that really matters, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, I'm going to drill these out and get some bolts lined up for them. It's actually some pretty thick metal beam that I didn't pay all that much for these. That'll mount it nicely. Now to transfer that to my fenders. Okay, I'm finding that because of the depth of this, it's almost straight down off the back of this, which is a little undesirable. Okay, I've decided to take this grommet out. This is so deep that it's almost covering my holes. Good thing I went back just as far as I did. I knew it went back pretty far, but I didn't know that far. And it was going to be very difficult to mark my holes because I couldn't get in and down, if that makes any sense. If I zoom up, you could probably see the holes down in there. So let me mark those and we'll start drilling. Just using a paint pen. Use anything you got. Oh, that's a little much paint. I don't think the drill bit will care. Just aim for the center of the blob. Right through the tire. No, just kidding. Okay, I can see daylight ×2. We're good on this side. I'm just trying to get all this fab work out of the way before I paint, because then you don't have to worry about your layout lines, anything like that. Looks good. Here's my plan. I'm going to take the wheels off. I got it jacked up already. I'm going to take the wheels off. Then, because there are only 4 huge bolts, nuts, that take the fenders off, I'm going to take those fenders off. The fenders are going to be painted chocolate brown, and the beam is going to be painted chocolate brown, kind of like it is now. It's not really black, and the cylinder too. It's not truly black. It's actually a brown. So that's the plan. I'm just going with rattle cans. I don't feel like getting out a spray gun for this size job because it's really not all that much surface area. It's more just corners and edges and stuff. I'm going to use a flap wheel disc on a grinder. That's what I'm planning on doing, just to get the main, stuff off. It's not really cancer rust that's going to go through or anything. It's just more of getting the loose paint removed and giving the paint something to bite to. And these are the stud type. Don't see that every day. Nice. Got you inside the left fender well here. Got a backup wrench on the other side. And that's good news. It came off without a struggle. And the nut is welded in? Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. I guess I don't have to take off the two bottom ones. That hurt. Or the two top ones. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking I had to take 4 bolts. I'm glad I took these off now that I see how easy they come off. Who would think there'd be captive nuts? I was ready for it that time. Let's see if I can pull the rest of this wire out. Yes. Other side? Yes. Okay. I think for my purposes today, I want this out of the way so I can get at everything down here. So and believe it or not, they've got that thing almost perfectly counterweighted, so it will be easy to lift. Yeah. And then what they do is they make you, as you can see, it didn't go all the way up. And I had those wheels off the ground. You have to go farther than 90. Then the bottom foot sits on the ground sturdy, and then your wheels are, sort of there. But you have the front jack to support it more. So it kind of sets it up on its own. That foot sits hard on the ground instead of the wheels keep bouncing every time you put a log on. It's a pretty smart idea. When somebody engineers something right, you could recognize that. If you were to build it yourself, you might not have thought about that. So I'm really not going to film the prep and paint process necessarily, but basically what I'm using is a flap wheel, they call it, I think. It's layered sandpaper. This one here happens to be a Gator 80 grit. You use whatever works for you. I just want to kind of clean up, that's still drillings from my thing earlier. I just want to kind of clean it up a little bit. I'm not really trying to get down to bare metal 100%. So when these are fresh and new like this one is, they actually cut pretty fast. So that's basically the process I'm going to be using. All right, I got the battery back in there, and I noticed that a bird left a comment. I think that's an unsubscribe for him. Back out here, what's another day for me on the wood chipper, and I'm out here because I realize I lost a bunch of audio and video. So most of the work that was done to finalize this has been lost as far as video goes, but the actual work is evident. So what did I do off camera? I put in the plug 4-flat, wired that, used zip tie, zip tie, zip tie, zip tie. Made a little junction box back under here. I had this all filmed, but this breaks into two, and then it goes through that wire over up to my new box. I put some silicone sealant here. You could use one of those, like a proper waterproof connector like electricians would use, but then I'd have had to re-drill that, and I didn't feel like doing that. Put that down with stainless steel bolts, short ones, through the fender, coming up from the inside so the long tails aren't sticking down there into the wheel well area. Not that this has suspension on it to flex, but it's just the point. It's got the side light, it's got the stop light, and those are now behind the typical area where you're going to be dropping logs front and back, or log halves. As far as, yeah, I just put some little reflectors on here. I put a reflector here, even though if you were going to use it in the upright position, that's going to get torn off because that's going to be on the ground. But I don't really plan on using it like that. The logs I get are not the kind that have to be split in the vertical position. They're smaller logs, maybe a foot in diameter. And like anything, that's, here's some that I've split with this, by the way. Anything that's more than, less than 6 inches, I'm going to run through a chipper where I get this wood from. And anything that's this size, few inches, 4 or 5, whatever, or bigger, I will either leave it as a log or split it. But you can see these didn't start, these aren't giant oak rounds or cottonwood or ash or something huge. I don't have those kind of trees. I only have trees that are about a foot or foot and a half at the biggest. So horizontal is what I'm going to be using it as, is all I'm saying. What else has been done to this? Battery shut off. Just so when it's sitting, all you do is you take that knob and you just turn it out. And as you turn it down, it makes a connection. It just makes sure, that nobody could start it inadvertently. Some kid playing around or whatever, because we don't have a key switch. And also, if you had any parasitic drain of any kind, and then when you're ready to run, all you do, tighten that down. That's it. Now it's connected again. So you don't have to keep pulling your cables off. And, for something like this that doesn't get used a lot. Also put a new Parker hydraulic filter on there. Mine is part number 921999110C K301 FA35-10. That's what fits this machine. There are different iterations of this machine and different control positions and things like that. And then, of course, I painted the rest of it, probably since the last picture was taken. Painted all this, painted this. I just went around the stickers. I just, taped over them so they look good. Trying to think of what else got missed on that last video. The tires have been put back on. The fenders have been put back on. I took the caps off. I pulled the tires. I pulled the bearings, and re-greased them. And I just realized one thing. They look like new, and I was kind of thinking, that's amazing. And then I looked at these tires. This must have been stored indoors its whole life. If you look the number, these are some DOT thing, ends in 76. I think that means 1976. So these would be the original tires. This had to have been stored indoors, or else these would have been dry rotted about 30 years ago. For most of its life, it's been stored indoors. So those are probably the original tires from back then. So that explains why the bearings were also like new. But I did re-grease them because they had the old black grease and had kind of separated out. So I did that. As far as how much stick out you want to put on your wire set, that's up to personal preference. What I did is I made a mark about where one of my other trailers was. Actually, now this one's a little shorter because I think I was making that where the ball was supposed to be. But anyway, it's plenty long to go to almost any vehicle you might have. And I just zip tied it up here so it doesn't get caught in the ball area. Another way you could have done that is you could have gone in through the hollow tube and come out the back somewhere, but then it's kind of already pointing right toward your point where you're flexing on. So I didn't really like that. So I just used nice, big, thick zip ties. Black ones are UV resistant. The white ones are not. Put a couple little reflectors just to make it a little safer. And when you're backing up, maybe you can see the corner of it a little easier. That's about it. I'll just make a couple splits with it just to show you how this works, and we'll consider this one done. Didn't turn my battery on. Gotta get that. Just put that on there. Works great. Nice vintage machine. Effortless cutting. This blade is, that wedge is just a killer. It's just the exact sharpness you'd want. And what I like about this one is it does go all the way to the end. A lot of modern chippers don't do that because that's a bad idea generally for your hydraulics to deadhead it like that. Newer ones would have, maybe a log cradle. Some of them have a log lift, different things like that. But for what this is, it's pretty excellent for exactly what I need. So I hereby declare this log splitter, wood splitter, Wildwood certified. Thanks for watching.